What if your company's chatbot wasn't just, one single overloaded artificial intelligence trying to do absolutely everything?
Right, the classic single model bottleneck we see everywhere.
Exactly. What if instead it was a specialized team of autonomous experts working together completely behind the scenes?
Like a virtual boardroom.
Yeah, exactly. You ask a question and instantly this virtual boardroom convenes to solve your problem. And according to the enterprise guide we're exploring today, organizations deploying these multi-agent systems are seeing a 34% improvement in process efficiency.
Wow.
Yeah, and a 47% reduction in operational costs within just 18 months. So, okay, let's
That
unpack that.
we really need to, because it's a massive structural change. I mean, for European business leaders, CTOs, developers evaluating AI right now, this is probably the most critical shift on the horizon.
Definitely.
We're basically moving away from traditional single model chatbots. Those older models are reactive, they're limited, and frankly, as enterprises try to scale them up, they just become these massive bottlenecks.
They just can't handle the weight.
Exactly. So what's replacing them are these multi-agent systems, entire networks of, specialized AI agents collaborating to solve really complex enterprise problems.
And there's a ticking clock here for European enterprises, which is the 2026 EU AI Act.
Oh, right, the regulations.
Yeah, mastering this tech isn't just about making your customer service a little faster. It's really about turning mandatory regulatory compliance into a very real competitive advantage.
And I think that's our mission for this deep dive. We're analyzing AetherLinks multi-agent AI systems in Den Haag, Enterprise Guide 2026.
A very comprehensive guide, by the way.
Oh, incredibly detailed. And we're going to help you understand how to navigate and actually profit from this massive architectural shift. But, to really grasp the value of multi-agent systems, I feel like we first need to look at why the current generic AI models are starting to hit a wall.
Especially in complex enterprise environments, yeah.
Right. Think of it like this. A traditional single AI solution is basically a brilliant but incredibly overwhelmed intern.
That's a great way to put it. You've hired this one intern, sat them at a desk, and said, okay, you're now running customer service, you're our compliance officer, you're managing data retrieval, and you're making executive decisions.
Which is doomed to fail.
Completely. No matter how smart they are, they're going to drop the ball because context switching just destroys accuracy.
That analogy hits the nail on the head, really. A multi-agent system, however, is more like hiring a specialized corporate C-suite.
Okay, so breaking up the roles.
Right. You have a dedicated customer service agent, a totally separate compliance officer, a data retriever, and a decision maker. And they're all managed by a central boss.
The orchestrator.
Exactly, the orchestration layer. They all have their own specific job, and they, communicate with each other to get things done.
But I have to push back here for a second because this kind of sounds like a recipe for a digital disaster.
How so?
Well, isn't adding 5 different AI agents just multiplying the potential for chaos? If one AI can hallucinate and give a wrong answer confidently, doesn't having 5 of them talking to each other just create a digital game of telephone?
Where the message just gets more distorted at every step?
Yeah. Doesn't it just compound the errors?
That's the exact fear keeping most CTOs up at night right now. But to understand why that cascade of errors doesn't actually happen, we have to look at the fundamental difference between traditional software and AI.
Okay, lay on me.
So, traditional software is deterministic. If you put in input X, you'll always get output Y. It's like a calculator, right? 2 plus 2 is always 4.
Right, very predictable.
But AI is probabilistic. If you give it input X, it basically calculates the most likely correct response. It might give you output Y, say, 78% of the time, and output Z 22% of the time based on its training data.
Okay, so it's playing the odds.
Exactly. So if you just string 5 probabilistic models together without any strict rules, then yes, you absolutely get chaos.
So how do we put guardrails on a probabilistic system then? How does this boss actually keep the team in line?
Well, that chaos is prevented by what the guide calls AI lead architecture, specifically referencing AetherLink's AetherMind framework.
AetherMind.
Right. This architecture enforces really strict rules on how these agents interact. The orchestration layer doesn't just, pass messages along. It actively evaluates the confidence levels of each specialized agent.
Hey, wait, just to make sure I'm wrapping my head around this, how does an AI actually know its own confidence level? Because if it's hallucinating, doesn't it genuinely think it's right?
That's a really great point. It doesn't rely on the AI feeling right. The orchestration layer uses a mathematical scoring mechanism.
Okay.
So when the compliance agent returns an answer, it also returns a probability score of its accuracy. And that's based on how closely the query matches its highly specialized training data.
I see.
Yeah, if the orchestration layer sees a confidence score of 98%, it proceeds. But if the score is, like, 72%, meaning the model is effectively guessing, the orchestrator just halts the process and routes the query to a human.
Oh, wow. So it knows when it's out of its depth.
Exactly. The system is designed to fail safely. And on top of that, these agents aren't just generic AIs pulled off the shelf. They use domain-specific language models, or DSLMs.
Ah, so instead of an AI that knows a little bit about everything, from writing a 16th century sonnet to baking a cake, it's an AI trained exclusively on, say, Dutch financial regulations.
Right.
It doesn't even know what a cake is.
Exactly the point. And actually, Gartner predicts that 63% of enterprise AI will use the SLMs by 2026.
That's a huge shift.
It is, because generic AI simply underperforms in specialized domains. I mean, a generic model is just predicting the next statistically likely word based on the entire internet.
Which is terrifying for a bank.
Completely.
Mm-hmm.
If you're operating in Den Haag's financial or legal sectors, you don't want the internet's opinion. You want the strict nuances of your industry. So a DSLM speaks your specific corporate language.
Makes sense. Because its universe of knowledge is so tightly focused, the statistical likelihood of it hallucinating irrelevant info just drops dramatically.
Exactly.
It's so easy to talk about architecture in theory, but let's look at exactly how this performs in the real world when actual money is on the line.
Yes, the case studies in the guide were incredible.
They really were. The sources provided this fascinating one that grounds this whole concept. There's this Den Haag-based financial services firm managing 2.3 billion euros in assets.
Massive operation.
Huge. And their old single-model chatbot was struggling massively. It only managed to resolve 23% of incoming queries.
Ouch.
Yeah, which means 77% of the time, a human specialist had to step in. That's incredibly expensive and creates a massive backlog for the client.
It's a classic symptom of that overwhelmed intern you mentioned earlier. So AetherLinks development arm, AetherDV, they came in and built a custom multi-agent solution. They just completely ripped out the single chatbot and deployed a 5-agent system.
Okay, let's break that down.
Let's look at the roster, because this is where the HIW becomes really clear. First, you have a client onboarding agent that handles KYC, know your customer, and anti-money laundering checks.
Super critical stuff.
Right. Second, a compliance verification agent. Third, a portfolio information agent. Fourth, an audit and compliance agent that's just logging everything.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, the decision orchestration agent.
The boss.
The boss, yeah. The orchestrator's sole job is synthesizing the probability scores and data outputs from those other 4 agents. It determines with absolute mathematical certainty if the system can resolve the query autonomously or if it genuinely requires human escalation.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Look at the return on investment for this firm once they deployed this specialized suite.
The numbers are wild.
They are. Within 16 months, autonomous handling jumped from that dismal 23% to 71%.
Huge jump.
Client onboarding, which used to take 14 days of just painful document back and forth, dropped to 6.7 days. And they saved 1.2 million euros annually in operational costs.
And the payback period.
The payback period for the entire system was a staggering 4.1 months. I mean, anyone who has ever been involved in enterprise software deployment knows that a 4-month payback period is practically science fiction.
Oh, absolutely. Usually you're waiting 18 months just to get your employees to adopt the new software, let alone see a return.
Exactly.
But what's fascinating here is the compliance metric. Because we often assume that automation means trading a little bit of quality for a whole lot of speed.
Right, like we accept a few more errors because it's so much faster.
Exactly. But in this case, the compliance verification accuracy actually improved. When human specialists were doing the manual review, accuracy hovered around 94%. After the multi-agent system was deployed, agent review accuracy hit 99.7%.
I really want to pause on that. The AI was actually better at catching compliance issues than highly trained human financial specialists.
It was. And the mechanism behind that is honestly pretty simple. A specialized compliance agent doesn't suffer from cognitive fatigue.
It doesn't need a coffee break.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't skim a 40-page document because it's 4:30 p.m. on a Friday.
Right.
It cross-references every single data point against international sanctions databases instantly, every single time.
Wow.
Because the compliance task is entirely isolated from the customer service task, the agent is 100% focused on one critical function without any distraction.
I mean, saving 1.2 million euros and speeding up onboarding is fantastic, but those operational wins mean absolutely nothing if the entire system gets shut down by European regulators in 18 months.
That is the big elephant in the room.
Yeah, and that brings us to the biggest looming challenge for our listeners, which is navigating the incredibly strict regulatory landscape of the upcoming EU AI Act.
Which raises an important question, right? How do you innovate and deploy these systems when the regulations are tightening so severely?
It seems impossible.
Well, the EU AI Act becomes fully operational in 2026, and it mandates specific transparency, explainability, and governance requirements for anything classified as a high-risk AI system.
Which absolutely includes financial and legal sectors.
100%. Now, DenHeg Enterprises are actually uniquely positioned to lead Europe here, simply due to their proximity to EU institutions and regulatory bodies. They're right at the epicenter of this shift. But the key concept to survive this act is compliance by design.
Compliance by design. So meaning you can't just build a rogue, fast AI system and then try to slap a compliance sticker on it later when the auditors show up.
Exactly. You have to embed the governance directly into the AI infrastructure from day one. Trying to retrofit compliance into a single model AI is nearly impossible because the model is essentially a black box.
Right.
You can't easily separate why it made a specific decision.
It's like trying to unbake a cake to figure out how much sugar is in it.
I love that analogy.
Right. Once a single model AI processes an input, the reasoning is all blended together in this massive neural network. You just can't pull out the specific ingredient that caused a bad output.
No, you can't.
But a multi-agent system is completely different. It's more like a restaurant kitchen. If a dish comes out too salty, the head chef, the orchestrator, knows exactly which prep cook made the mistake because everyone has an isolated station.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
Yeah.
And that isolation is exactly why multi-agent systems specifically satisfy the EU AI Act.
Okay.
It comes down to three non-negotiable pillars: explainability, auditability, and human oversight.
Let's take explainability first.
Sure. Because each agent has a specific job, you can isolate their decision-making.
Yeah.
If the system denies a client onboarding, you don't just get a generic "computer says no" error.
Which is the worst.
It is. But here, the orchestration agent can tell you exactly which specialized agent flagged the issue. Say, the compliance agent found a mismatch in the user's provided address versus their tax document.
Oh, wow. It completely pulls the curtain back. You're no longer dealing with a black box. You have a clear chain of logic.
Exactly. Second is auditability, which is where that isolated audit agent comes in. Agent interactions create these comprehensive data trails.
Right. They're constantly logging.
The audit agent literally logs the conversation and the data exchange between, say, the customer service agent and the compliance agent. It's a built-in, immutable paper trail that the EU AI Act requires for high-risk AI classifications.
That's incredibly smart.
And third, human oversight. Multi-agent architectures actively flag high-risk decisions. As we discussed earlier with the confidence scores, the system knows its own thresholds.
Right, if it drops below 98% or whatever.
Exactly. If a scenario falls outside those parameters, the orchestration agent just seamlessly routes the entire context package to a human. The AI actively partners with human oversight rather than trying to bypass it.
Okay, so the multi-agent system is faster, it's mathematically more accurate, and the architecture itself generates the paper trail to keep you out of legal trouble with the EU. It's the whole package.
It is. But, I mean, if I'm a business leader listening to this, I'm thinking about the reality of my IT department. We have legacy systems. We have databases built 15 years ago. How do we actually implement this without completely disrupting our entire existing infrastructure?
Yeah, it's a valid concern.
I mean, this sounds like open-heart surgery for a company's tech stack.
It is a major operation, to be fair, and doing it recklessly will cause massive disruptions. That's why the guide outlines a strict 5-phase implementation roadmap.
Okay.
You cannot buy this off the shelf and just plug it in overnight. The entire process takes about 8 to 10 months to do correctly.
Let's break those phases down, because an 8-month timeline means companies need to start, like, now if they want to be ready for 2026. What does phase 1 actually look like?
Phase 1 is discovery and architecture, which takes about 2 months. This is where a strategic consultancy like AetherMine maps out your existing systems and your regulatory constraints.
Okay, so laying the groundwork. Exactly. They design the actual AI-led architecture, defining exactly what specialized agents you need and mapping out the communication protocols between them. You don't write a single line of code here. You're just building the blueprint.
Makes sense.
Then phase 2 is design and prototyping. This is where you select the domain-specific language models and start testing their core functionality in an isolated sandbox.
Making sure this specialized intern actually knows the job before you put them on the floor with real customer data?
Yes, exactly. And that brings us to phase 3, implementation and integration, which is usually the most daunting part for CTOs.
I can imagine.
This is the heavy lifting of connecting these AI agents to your legacy databases, your CRMs, your secure servers.
Hold on, connecting a brand new, highly autonomous AI to a bank's 20-year-old legacy CRM sounds like a massive data security risk.
Oh, for sure.
Like, how does the architecture protect that proprietary data? We can't have the AI accidentally leaking client portfolios into the public domain.
Definitely not. The protection comes through strict API gateways and secure data enclaves. The AI agents don't get unlimited raw access to your database.
That's a relief.
Yeah, they query an API which acts as a bouncer, ensuring the agent only gets the specific data point it's authorized to see for that specific task.
Got it.
So once the integration is secure, you move to phase 4, testing and certification. You basically throw every possible edge case scenario at the system to validate its behavior.
Try to break it.
Exactly. And more importantly, this is where you finalize all the documentation and audit logs required for EU AI Act certification. You prove the system is safe before it ever goes live.
Crucial step.
And finally, phase 5 is deployment and monitoring. You roll it out gradually, continually optimizing the confidence thresholds based on real-world interactions.
I have to ask about the bottom line, though. For a comprehensive enterprise implementation, like what kind of capital expenditure are we talking about for this 10-month journey?
The investment varies, of course, but for a robust enterprise deployment, you're looking at roughly 200,000 to 500,000 euros.
That is a significant upfront cost. I mean, it's not a SaaS subscription you just put on a corporate card.
No, it's a major capital expense. But we really have to contextualize it with the ROI metrics we discussed earlier.
Right, the 4-month payback.
Exactly.
Right.
The average payback period is just 4 to 8 months. Over a 3-year horizon, enterprises are seeing a 280% to 420% return on investment.
That's wild.
And that's not just from operational savings and headcount optimization. It's from reduced compliance fines and the revenue growth that comes from onboarding clients in 6 days instead of 14.
Wow. So what does this all mean? We've covered the architectural shift from single models to C-suites, the financial returns, and the regulatory survival guide. Let's pull all these threads together into actionable priorities for you, the listener.
Absolutely.
If there is one massive takeaway I want to highlight from all these sources, it's the shift toward proactive, voice-driven service.
It's the interface of the near future, without a doubt.
It really is. I mean, the guide projects that 41% of all enterprise customer interactions will be voice-based by 2026.
It's almost half.
Yeah. Typing into a little chat box on a website is basically going away. We're moving toward natural, context-aware, spoken conversations. And to do that in Europe, you need flawless multilingual support.
Essential.
AetherBot, the conversational platform mentioned in the guide, supports 47 different languages, which is absolutely vital for EU multicultural markets. But the real magic isn't just that the AI can talk, it's that the multi-agent architecture allows it to become proactive.
This is a crucial distinction between legacy chatbots and agents.
Right now, a customer has a problem, they call you, and your AI tries to fix it. That's entirely reactive.
Right.
The next generation multi-agent systems identify the problem before the customer even knows they have it.
Which is mind-blowing.
Imagine an orchestration agent noticing a banking customer is about to hit their credit limit while traveling abroad in Spain. It proactively triggers a voice agent to call or message the customer in their native language, offering a temporary limit increase before their card even gets declined at a restaurant.
Incredible experience for the user.
According to the research, this kind of proactivity drives 3.7 times higher engagement. It turns what would be a frustrating customer service disaster into a moment of pure delight.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, my number one takeaway is what this shift means for your competitive positioning in the market.
Okay, let's hear it.
The real takeaway isn't just that multi-agent systems are faster or more cost-effective. It's that proper AI-led architecture creates an impenetrable regulatory moat.
A regulatory moat. I like that. So instead of regulation being a roadblock, you're using it as a fortress.
Exactly. For years, stringent regulations like the EU AI Act have been viewed purely as a massive cost burden, like a total drag on innovation.
Right, everyone complains about it.
But when you implement a multi-agent system with compliance by design, You transform that burden into a massive advantage.
How so?
Because while your competitors are scrambling in 2025, freezing deployments and spending millions trying to retrofit their generic black box AIs to meet EU standards, your system is already automatically generating audit trails and compliance certifications.
Well, that's brilliant.
It means you can deploy new products faster, you can enter new European markets with absolute confidence. Your rivals simply will not be able to catch up with that kind of structural advantage by 2026.
It's the ultimate strategic judo. You're using the heavy weight of the new regulation against your competitors. They're stuck doing paperwork, and you're out there innovating.
The compliance isn't just a shield to protect you from fines, it actually becomes a sword to capture market share.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive. We've talked about agents handling compliance, retrieving data, and assisting customers. But if these multi-agent systems become entirely proactive, if they are out there solving your clients' problems, navigating their complex compliance needs, and optimizing their portfolios before the client even realizes they need to ask, at what point does your customer service AI stop being just a support tool and actually become your company's primary product? Think about it. For more AI insights, visit etherlink.ai.